Our speaker today is OPDC's Miss Beatrice Charles, who retired after 52 years of teaching and inspiring Pittsburgh youth. Miss B, an Oakland resident, has mentored and educated our school to career students towards academic and professional success from 2010 to 2018. Growing up, Miss B dreamed of singing on Broadway, but soon realized her passion for teaching. Throughout her career, she taught English to 7th through 12th grade students at Fifth Avenue High School, Baxter Middle School, Westinghouse High School, and Taylor Alderdice High School, the latter at which she taught for 21 years. In 2001, Miss B retired to spend time with her late husband. Then in 2010, her former student, Carla Stallworth, approached her about a job. For the next 8 years, Miss B was an instrumental part of the OPDC team. She helped students develop study skills as well as communication and presentation skills. She also administered and evaluated career assessments to all new school to career students and provided SAT reading and writing preparation. She has continued to volunteer at School to Career and is currently an OPDC board member. Everyone, please welcome our speaker today, Miss B.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hey, Miss B.
Hi, everybody.
So I am going to get your PowerPoint started.
Okay.
Okay, Miss B, you may begin.
Okay. I remember years ago imagining how slaves were able to deliver babies in a field and get up and start walking and go back to work and picking more cotton. And I could never imagine how I could do that. So I often wonder how my mother and father survived many things that they survived at the time. And I said, young people are probably wondering how I survived the things that I survived. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Can you imagine my life at this particular time in your life? The first one is being refused service in East Liberty, food service. I remember they used to have a Murphy's 5 and 10 on Penn Avenue, right in the middle of East Liberty. And I remember they had a little lunch counter, and I wanted to get a hot dog and a Coke. And I sat there. Of course, they would not serve me because I was of the wrong color and could not sit at their counter. Right down the street was a little restaurant called Anton's. It's right near the corner of Highland and Penn Avenue. And I remember when Blacks were not even allowed to go in there. And eventually, over time, it was nothing but a Black service there and Black occupants and participants. So things did change. One other time I remember being refused service was in Virginia. I was with my brother, who happens to be almost 4 years older than I am. And he was going to buy me a Coke. I was so excited. And we sat at this counter for the longest time. And there were two women, white waitresses on the other side, dressed in pink uniforms. I'll never forget it. And we sat there for the longest time wondering. Then finally they came over and told us that they could not serve us. But to go through East Liberty and imagine being refused food service is just unbelievable to most of you. Am I right? Anyway, and growing up, I never had a Black baby doll. All the baby dolls we had were white. I think there might have been a few, but they weren't anywhere where we could purchase them. I would always get the doll with the brown hair, and my sister, who was 3 years younger than I am, she would always get the blonde haired doll. But we never had a Black baby doll in our whole lives. They weren't around. Or not having makeup. That was the shade that you could actually wear. Everything was made for Caucasian skin, stockings, makeup, everything. So it was hard to find something. Then they finally came out with one shade of stocking. It was called Red Fox, I think it was. And everybody, that was the only dark stockings that you could possibly buy. I hate stockings today. That's another story. Okay. And we could not go swimming in the swimming pools that were near our house. I grew up in East Liberty, which is now called Lincoln Leamington. They changed the name on us. But Highland Park swimming pool, we had to picket. In fact, my minister, Dr. Reverend Leroy Patrick, organized the picketing. We had policemen, etc., all there trying to go swimming. So eventually we were permitted to swim in the swimming pool at Highland Park. The same thing occurred at Kennywood Park. We weren't allowed there at all. In fact, I think they even closed the swimming pool rather than let Blacks swim in the pool. I grew up not having a television till I was 9 years old, only because television was something new. we would listen to things on the radio. Anyway, we had to listen to stories on the radio, children's stories, mysteries, soap operas, everything was on the radio. And I remember when the first person on our street got a television, there were 20 people who gathered on their porch to look through the window to see a television. It was something brand new. So after we had television, we were anxious to see a Black on television. It took years for us as we would say, hey, look, there's a Black person on television. Come look at this. So that was something totally different. So you didn't see many Blacks. Of course, now it's hard to turn on a television without seeing any Blacks, which is wonderful. So we are changing, but it's also going very slowly. I have heard that it takes 50 years for the average American to accept a new idea. So think about that as you go along through your life. And can you look in your room right now and find any room in your house that does not have anything that's made of plastic? Plastic was not around for the average person during that time. Toys were made out of metal, wood, etc., but nothing for plastic. Okay, Carly, you want to go to the next one? If you have any questions, you can ask as we go along.
You can also put it in a chat if you all have questions. And also, Mr. Jeremy, can you look at the chat because I can't see it?
Okay.
Of course.
And there's my girl, Tara. Hi, Tara. We're sitting together. We had so much fun together at School to Career. I loved her. I still love her.
But that picture of us.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to go to school right now. I went to Leamington Elementary School, which is on Leamington Avenue, which is now Lincoln Leamington. And I went from first grade through 8th grade there. And I went on to Westinghouse High School, which I enjoyed going to high school. But in my 9th grade year, I had my one and only Black teacher. She is still living, and I see her every now and then, and she's just a wonderful person. Her name is Mildred Glenn. But anyway, I was very active in school. I was a cheerleader. I was a National Honor Society. I was doing all kinds of things all the time, singing in performances, etc. So the people knew who I was, but no one ever talked to me about college. I graduated number 7 in my class, National Honor Society and everything, and no one ever talked to me about going to college. If it had not been for my parents, I would have never gone. But luckily, and thank God, I had the right parents who were encouraging. They always told us to be prepared, get an education, and above all, be ready to take care of yourself. So that's what I tried to do. So when I graduated from high school, I had to work a year because there were no grants available at that time. If you didn't have the money, you just didn't go. So I worked a year, and my first job out of high school was at Giant Eagle. It was not the Giant Eagle that you know today. I had to go to the president's office in Lawrenceville, sit at his very large wooden desk, and take an oral math test. There were no computers, no calculators, no nothing. I didn't even have a pencil and paper to use. Luckily, I was able to pass it. And my first job was being the second Black person ever hired by Giant Eagle as a cashier. There was one other person who came before me. Her name was Mamie. I was 18. I think she must have been in her mid-20s or something like that. But the second person ever hired by Giant Eagle as a cashier, and I had to take an oral math test to get the job. And I could not even go on my own. I had to be represented by civil rights organizations to even get in for the interview. So things have been segregated for many, many, many years. I went on there, I went to Cal U, and that was my choice only because I could not even afford to stay home, because at that time, University of Pittsburgh was too expensive for me to even stay home. I went to Cal U where I could afford to go, but I had to work in the summer. I worked the first year, first of all. Then I would wait for income tax returns to come for my second semester. And then I would work in the summer, and this is how I paid for my education. There were no grants that you have today. Of course, Pittsburgh Promise didn't even exist for a long time. So if you didn't have the money, you just didn't go. But I was thankful that I was able to go there. It was a means toward an end. On the next part of the PowerPoint, they were talking about interviewing. I got married when I was doing my student teaching to the most wonderful guy in my world, and he died in 2009. But anyway, he was always being chosen first for many occupations in this country. And I went on 2 interviews. One was with Colgate-Palmolive Company. And not only was he interviewing me, I had to go for the interview also. So I guess they had to approve of me before they would accept him. I remember his grandfather talking about he had a home. They lived on Hermitage Street in Homewood. Beautiful home. And they had lived there since my husband was 4 years old. And one day they were going to close out the mortgage. And the owner, well, the guy who was accepting the mortgage payments told him at that point that he didn't own the house after all these years. And of course, that was a lie. And so what happened in the meeting, the white man turned black and died right there on the spot because he was lying. So many people who wanted to own a home, they had the money for it, they had the credit for it, but because of the color, you were not given a mortgage. So things have changed there also. When I was younger, I also loved to roller skate. I wasn't so much into ice skating because I don't like the cold weather. But we used to go downtown Pittsburgh to a place called the Diamond. It's in the Diamond Market, what do they call it? Market Square right now. And we went on Wednesday evenings, and it took me the longest time to realize why we were there on Wednesday evenings, because we weren't allowed there any other day. So we were only allowed to go roller skating on Wednesday evenings downtown Pittsburgh at the Diamond Market area. Going to restaurants, well, first of all, we were so poor we could not afford to go to restaurants, but I remember my grandmother taking my older sister, who is my shade, and they told her that if you didn't, you have to leave. She said, but this is my grandchild. They said, well, all of you have to leave. So a lot of times people were refused restaurant services, and segregation has improved some. We have a long way to go, but these are the things that I remember. Do you have any questions so far?
In the chat, it said, how much was, I guess I'm going back a little bit to education. How much was it to attend Cal U when you?
Cal U, $300
Yes.
some dollars.
A year?
This is at night. That's all it was, yeah.
Wow.
But let me tell you this, as I told you, Pitt, I don't know what it was at Pitt at the time, but I know I couldn't afford it because I had no money. But my husband graduated from Duquesne University, and he had to go to Duquesne because Duquesne was cheaper than Pitt at that time. Can you imagine
Wow.
it?
Wow.
Yeah, so
Michael's
it was $300 some dollars a semester. Yeah, that's what
wow.
it was.
Don't we wish, right?
Well, when you think about it, you weren't making much of a salary at that time either. So I remember my starting salary teaching in the Pittsburgh Public Schools was $5,600.
Well, we know, Maddie and I had this conversation yesterday about how minimum wage has not kept up with, a living
Oh
wage
my goodness.
here. Yeah, we were saying.
I worked in the cafeteria at Cal U. I waited on tables for extra money, and I made 70 cents an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway, so, but yeah, I think times have changed. And I remember I had $5,600 as my salary. I think my husband was making about $6,000 or something at the time. And our goal was to make $10,000 apiece.
Wow.
It was interesting. You could go shopping for weeks for like 30 some dollars. Everything was not expensive in comparison, but you didn't make that much money either. So, yeah.
Wow. Michael said, how do you stay positive and happy during this time?
Because that's all I knew. You're living through history and you don't even realize it, but that is your normal. You weren't happy all the time. I remember skating, for example. I knew there were some things that were not right. In swimming, we couldn't do certain things, being refused the lunch at the Murphy's counter. But I remember I went to Leamington Elementary School, and in the whole school, there might have been 20 Blacks in the whole school at that time. And my friends would go to a place called Lexington Skating Rink. And I loved to roller skate. I've been roller skating since I was 9 years old. And we would come back from the weekend, and they had been to a place called the Lexington. Now, the Lexington was located in East Liberty, not too far from where Target is located now. And I said, why can't we go there? But my mother never discussed the segregation or the negative aspects. She just was always being very positive, telling us what we had to do to go on in life. So I guess that's what it was. I didn't have a lot of negativity around me. The people in my church were always very positive. In fact, it was a person in my church, and my church was very active with politics at that time. I went to Bethesda at that time. It was in East Liberty. In fact, it was located right where, what's the name of the place right there in the corner of Penn Avenue? Anyway, they were very active. We even entertained students from the Little Rock, Arkansas. We were always involved with something. So there's a man, Mr. Holloway, and because of his involvement with civil rights, he was the one who suggested I go to apply for the job at Giant Eagle at that time. So your normal becomes a normal, and you don't think that you're living through history, but you are. So, but I've always been a positive person. I refuse to be anything else. So if you see me otherwise, just smack me, because I'm not right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It will be a fight if you ever put your hands on Miss B.
And you're right about that too. Okay. Any other questions there? Okay. As I was telling you, I had no Black teachers. I had one, and that was in the 9th grade. In fact, I took time this afternoon to look in my yearbook. And this was I graduated in January of 1960. And they used to have 2 graduations a year. You had a graduation in January and you had a graduation in June. So that means I started elementary school in January. I left 8th grade in January. Everything was in January. I even started college in January. So it's always very interesting. But anyway, I had the one middle school 9th grade teacher. I just gone to Westinghouse at that time. And she was just a wonderful person. As I told you, I still see her today. Now, there was another teacher when I was teaching at Alderdice, Mrs. Hayes. She went on to tell me that she was in high school, but when she got to Pittsburgh, she could not teach in the elementary or middle school. She could not teach in the high school. She could only teach in the middle school because they didn't think you were qualified enough to teach in the high school. So a lot of teachers, as I was telling you, I was looking in my yearbook, and I counted the Black teachers. Pictures were there in my yearbook. I counted 5. And the one person who was there for me in the 9th grade, she wasn't even among the pictures. So there were 5 in that big school, 5 Black teachers when I graduated after 4 years. Mm-hmm. As I said before, no counselors. They didn't talk to me. I don't know why, but they didn't. And thank God I had parents who were encouraging me to go to school and do something. My mother's favorite saying was, be able to take care of yourself. No grants or tuitions. The grants did start coming in my senior year, I think, of college. But before that, they were not available. They also used me to integrate college dorms. They paired me with a white girl named Trudy. She was really nice. We had a good time together. She was a little wilder than I was, but we were all right. We got along quite well. But before that, no one had ever integrated dormitories at Cal U. Mm-hmm. Another integration was the faculty at West Liberty School. West Liberty School is out Route 50 up through the tubes. I don't know whether anyone knows where that is now or not. But they sent me there to integrate the faculty. And I was there as one Black teacher, and there was only one Black student there. I don't remember her name right now, but I remember it was 8th grade. It went kindergarten through 8th grade at that time. But I remember every time there was a dance, she would sit and cry all day long because the little white boys would not dance with her. And so I mentioned it to the principal, who was very understanding, Joe Elias. I remember his name. He was very nice. He said, well, maybe maybe the other girls don't want to dance, but she wanted to dance and nobody would dance with her. So I made her mother aware of it. So on days of a dance, her mother would keep her home so she wouldn't have to go through all that. Just sad, you know. And then, as I was talking, there are no Blacks on campus at Cal U when I was there at all. There was one little old man who lived in town. I never got a chance to meet him, but we had no representation, I think, including students who lived on campus and those who commuted. We might have had 30 Blacks on the whole campus. Any comments or questions?
Just 30?
That was all, 30. That included the people who commuted and lived on campus. That's all. And I was always the only Black person in my class. I remember they had a system where if it were a 3-credit course, you were allowed 3 cuts. You could cut class 3 times. But I couldn't even cut class because they knew that I wasn't going to be there. They would miss me immediately. So I had to be in all of my classes, but I never had a class with another Black person when I was at Cal. Yeah. And mine was secondary English. So there were people who were there, but not in my particular classes that I had, no. So does 30 sound like a few number, small number?
Yeah, that's too small, very small.
So we had to support each other because we were all we had. And some of my best friends today are my friends that I met at Cal U. They're still my best friends. And we had to just support each other, which we did. Whether we liked each other or not, we had to support each other and get along because otherwise we'd been in trouble. There were no businesses in town. There was nothing. So, but I was very active there also, and I enjoyed it as much as I could. But we were very restricted with what we could do. If anything happened, we were always blamed for it, even though we had nothing to do with it. But it was a means toward an end. Here I am today to talk to you because of that. So that's good.
Miss B, I know that there, probably wasn't anything formal at that point, but was there anything like an informal, like not a Black student union, but something like that? You said you supported each other.
Black Student Union? No, I would love that. No,
I know, and that's what I'm saying is like I know.
Oh no,
really for that kind
we had to support each other. Yeah.
So it was just kind of like in passing. There wasn't like, hey, let's all meet up at this place at this time, kind of thing.
Well, we would eat at dinner. We would eat dinner and lunch and dinner together.
Okay.
In fact, lunch and dinner were served family style.
Oh, okay.
And they would have waitresses to bring us the food. The food was good. It was always delicious. But we would sit at the same tables to eat, because that's the only time we really got a chance to see each other, or unless it was in the evening after dinner or something like that. And we had to get dressed for dinner. Guys had to wear jackets, and if they came to the dining room without a jacket, they were sent back. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot. We have a couple questions, Miss B. What are your thoughts on the lack of Black educators in America? Especially today, the lack of Black educators in America, especially Black men who have degrees.
Oh, it would be so wonderful. I think a lot of them are having trouble passing tests. I think that's the problem. But I remember at School to Career, there was one girl who was at Alderdice. You remember that, Carla?
Yes.
And
she's in one of these pictures.
Pardon me?
She's in one of these pictures.
Okay, I have to look and see that one. But anyway, she said, you said you taught at Alderdice. I said, yes, I was there for 22, 23 years. She said, were you a real teacher? I said, yes. She said, well, there are no Black teachers at Alderdice. And that blew my mind. But when I was there, we might have had about 10. And they were in every department. And it was good. But no, she just couldn't. She said there were no Black teachers at Alderdice. Now, whether they're now, I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. But we also had Bill Fisher as our principal, and he did an excellent job. We had people in the counseling department. They were Black and white. It was mixed. It was a nice, diverse group. But things have changed during the time. I don't know what's going on.
Do any of the students on the Zoom have, or when you were in school, did you all have Black teachers in abundance, or maybe one or two? Because I had a couple. Of course, Ms. B was my English teacher in high school, but even at that time, Westinghouse had a couple Black, not a little bit, but a few Black teachers. I didn't have them all, but I remember, English was represented, art, math, it was like you would see Black teachers throughout the building.
You
So
knew
it
they were
was,
there.
you
Yeah.
knew they were there. If you had their class or not, they were definitely there. But I noticed when we go to, some of the schools we visit, I don't see a lot of Black teachers now. So,
Okay, I
Trinity,
understand there aren't many.
right. Yeah, Trinity, City High, Arani, do you all know if there is a decent amount of Black teachers at your school?
We
No, I
had,
never see it.
You don't see it. I mean, well, your CEO is Black, Armani, so that's a good thing.
I had like 3 Black teachers in elementary school.
Okay.
And
Where did you go to elementary school?
Pittsburgh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
And in middle school, I had 1 Black teacher, and I had 2 Black teachers, but he had to retire because Dad. And then, and now I'm at high school. I feel like, I don't know, do I got any Black teachers? I'm really trying to think. Hold up 1 second. Let me think real quick.
And another thing, just because a teacher is Black does not mean it's a good teacher.
Yep.
You can have some fantastic white teachers. I know some white teachers I would love to have for my son.
Yeah.
And I know some Black ones I would not have wanted him in their class.
Very
so it has
true.
nothing to do with the color or the quality of teaching. Yeah.
Yeah, I was more so asking because, like you said, it sort of goes up and down, I guess, over a period of 10 years or 20 years where there may have been a lot in the 80s or 90s. I think it was
they were
intentional
recruiting them, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say I think it was more intentional.
They were recruiting them. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. So when you realized all the things that you had gone through, at what time was that? And do you think that, what time in your life was that when it was like, wow, I was history, and, really tried to impact your students with the stories and the knowledge that you gained going through some of these, this life of yours that's been incredible.
I think I might have been in my 40s or 50s, Carla, before I realized it. Yeah, because it was just a normal thing from day to day. That's what I did,
Yeah.
And you're living through the history, but you don't realize that all of you are living through history now, but you don't think about it. I'm living through history. Well, this past summer was an indication that some things were changing, but I didn't realize it at the time. No. I was just doing the best that I could and having fun.
Awesome.
Hi, this is your neighbor, Catherine and Jason. So you lived in.
Hi.
Hello.
You've been listening.
Yes, very fascinating. So you lived in Pittsburgh, which is a larger city, and then you went to school in California. I don't know if you lived anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you lived anywhere else, but did you see differences? Was Pittsburgh at least a little bit more progressive because it was a larger city?
When my husband worked for Colgate-Palmolive Company, he was transferred different places. I lived in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I've also lived in Detroit. Now, Detroit was very interesting. When we got there, we lived in a hotel. Of course, the company paid for everything while we were out there swimming at night in the swimming pools and so forth. So we were going to look for an apartment. And I called one day because I saw this one place I thought we would like to live. And when I called about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I told them I would be there between 5 and 5:15. I got there about 5 minutes after 5. They would not let me in the door. I was not even permitted to fill out an application or anything. So the very next day, I found my way downtown Detroit to a Cadillac Square, I think it was called. And I went to the Human Relations and I filed a complaint. Now, eventually they told me that I could live there, but I didn't want to live there somewhere I was not wanted. And we got a much nicer place anyway, but I've been refused housing, and Detroit was one in particular, yes. And this was 1969. It was also 1968 that they had the riots there. So I think that had something to do with it. I don't know for sure, but we were refused housing, and my husband had a nice job and we could do everything, so. But we refused, and they refused to let me even come to I couldn't even get inside the door. Yeah.
Hmm.
I have a
We
quick
lived in
question.
New York also, but we were going to live in New York. I went there when I was pregnant, and my husband was going to take over this job, and they kept it open for him for 5 months because I was pregnant at the time. But there they were telling you how much you could have for your money. That was really unusual,
Hmm?
but it wasn't discriminatory. It wasn't being discriminating at all. It was just where the policy was in New York.
How
But we
much
lived
money you
different
can have?
places. Well, if I had millions, I could have lived anywhere, but I didn't have millions, but I could afford more than what they were giving me. They
Oh.
told me I couldn't have more than 3 bedrooms. I said, what? Yeah,
Wow.
but I've been back in Pittsburgh for a long time now. Mhm.
Miss B, was there ever a time when you were teaching, when you were told not to share something about your experience, or that somebody said, hey, somebody reported you to someone saying like, oh, she's talking bad about the government?
Oh no, I loved almost every minute of my teaching. I had children from everywhere, from all over the world, all different levels. I started with 3 and 4-year-olds, and I went all the way up to 12th grade. I've had one boy in my class from Germany. He just came to the United States to experience going to high school. He didn't even want to grade. But no, I've never had those problems. No, they never told me what to do. They allowed me to be very creative with my teaching, which I
That's
enjoyed.
awesome. That's I'm happy, but almost surprised to hear that you never had any pushback in terms of, because if you interacted with your students the way that you interact with us and our CEOs, which you're one of the most genuine people I've ever met. I can't imagine it was ever any different. Thank
you,
oh well, no,
Jeremy.
you're welcome, but of course, my pleasure, believe me. But yeah, I'm happily surprised that you never caught any flack for that during your teaching career.
No, no, I never had any. In fact, I had very few discipline problems. They were just very nice. They just did what I asked them to do, basically, and I appreciated it. Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
was trying to be, I was fair with everybody. I think that's what it was. And I told them, when you're bored, I'll be bored. So I tried to make it interesting. So.
Gotcha. Well, thank you.
I never thought about that, Jeremy. Yeah.
Miss B was one of those cool teachers. You all have not met Miss B, but she's always very stylish, always smiling. So it was always really cool to be in her class, because some teachers aren't happy to teach, and that's just reality. But you could tell that she was passionate about teaching and educating young people. Definitely passionate about the English language, will not let you just go through life saying mines and them, theirs, and yeah, I know it's like these words hurt you, Miss B.
Carla, tell about the OFTEN.
So somebody say OFTEN, and we will tell you if it is being pronounced correctly, because I was pronouncing it incorrectly for years. So
can I say it the right way just for Miss B? No, I'm gonna say it wrong.
Yes, see, Tyra has had Miss B. Go ahead.
Often? Say it again. Often?
Oh,
often?
Miss B.
Is it often?
Often.
The T is silent, yes.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I was about to, I guess, mispronounce it, because I figured that the hard...
No, but the people... I wish I could take over some of the people on television. I said, no, that's not right. That's not right.
Who you telling?
But often is one of those words that when Miss B, because I always thought if you pronounce the T, you were definitely saying it the right way. So often, yeah, exactly. And I sat there with Google one day for a very long time, making Google say often.
Well, it's a good thing you never taught in the South, Miss B, or you would have been just telling everybody they were mispronouncing.
Well, let me tell you, my son went to school in Atlanta, and he would come home and say, Mom, you should have heard what they said. He said, he would repeat them. I don't remember what they were now, but they were just unbelievable. And he said, they asked me if I was from England. They thought he was from England.
It's like he enunciates. But yeah, because you'll hear, and anytime if you hear me correct you, it's because of something that Miss B has said. And just over the time that she worked with us, one of the things that you don't really listen to, but you hear it, and it's minds. That drives me crazy now. Thank you, Miss B. When we would hear it and, going through our summer orientation, and they put the S on mine, like mine is or something. I don't know if it's a contraction or what, but it's not a word that you should be using.
No, they're talking about multiple places where you can dig rock out of the ground.
Well, there you go. That's a mine.
Exactly. So,
I wish people would teach them how to use the pronoun I. Yes. The pronoun I is used for everything, and it's all wrong. And I just wish someone would one day sit down, newscasters, many people, I wish they would just teach them the correct usage of the pronoun I. Would be so nice. But anyway, who am I?
I think if we were going to change one thing about news media, I'm not sure grammar right now would be highest on my list.
No, but I would think they would have learned it because that's their job, that's their profession. You know,
well, there are a lot of things we would think would happen.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Exactly. Can you imagine?
Anyway, I'm going to stop talking with Miss B the whole time. I'm sorry.
So let's hear from some of our young people. You all are in school. What are some of the things that Miss B shared with you that you couldn't imagine?
No plastic.
Second Black person to work at John Eagles.
Yeah, I was the second one they hired. And most people go in off the streets these days. I had to sit at the president's desk in Lawrenceville and take an oral math test.
I don't think people could do that now.
I don't know if I could do it now. But I did at the time.
Yeah, I don't think the cashiers that are there sometimes, I think they struggle. I mean, there's definitely not a test anymore.
We had cash registers, but you had to know the exact change. Now they tell you how much to give back, but you had to know everything. Yeah.
Right. That is incredible. And you said plastic, Michael.
Yeah.
So
you imagine playing with something made out of wood or metal?
He would have some metal beats on his head right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized, what'd you say, Tara?
I personally would love $300 tuition.
Well, only because you have more money, you know.
I know, but in this time.
That was hard. I had to work a year to get that, you know, so. Like I told you, when I was waiting on tables at school, I was only making 70 cents an hour. Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy how money has changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was happy to get my little check.
Minimum wage is just now $7.25. Mm-hmm. And we were saying yesterday that in, what was it, 1981, 82, it was $2 and something cent. So it's only gone up like $4 in over
all those years,
30 years. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's 40 years. So it's ridiculous the amount, the limited amount of growth that has happened with our minimum wage. It's almost sad to think that, my first job, I was, probably making $3 an hour. Yours was 70 cents. And now it's $7. We have not come a long way. Yeah. So hopefully in your lifetime, you'll see, $15 an hour one day.
It's almost like trickle-down economics doesn't work.
So true.
But the main thing is that you have to be prepared when the opportunities are there for you. And I'm so thankful that I had the parents that I had who encouraged me to go to school. And we had no money. I mean, nothing. So we were what they call po. Yeah, we were po. And we had no money, but we had encouragement and love. And I lived in a neighborhood at the time where people did have some money. And I realized how much little I did have because of the comparison. Some people said they never knew they were poor. I knew I was poor, But I was lucky to be where a place at schools were, and elementary school teachers were wonderful at Leamington. They were really, really great. They were all white also, but they were very encouraging, supportive. And the principal was a friend of my mother's, I would say. Her name was Charlotte Truby. And she would call my sister, who is right under me, would do something. The principal would call my mother at work. And by the time my mother got home, my sister was surprised that she knew what had happened during that day. So but they were very supportive. They wanted you to do the best. Yes, it was good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your name recognition is amazing, Mrs. B.
What do you mean?
You remember a lot of names. Like I couldn't tell you my elementary school.
Well, you know what?
Right now.
I barely remember my own name most days. What do you think?
That was part of my job. In fact, when I was teaching, I made a point to make sure I knew everybody. Now, I had 5 classes a day. And because I was in the English department, we were limited to 30 students. So I would have 150 students at a time. My job for the first week of school was to make sure that I went down that roll. I knew everybody's first name. I knew who they were.
Wow.
I would walk through the halls. I say, "Hey, John, how are you doing?" He said, "How do you know my name?" I said, "I know who you are." But I made sure I knew everybody's first name at least. Yeah, and it was very important. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Even at School of Career, she would know every student's name. I remember one year Lavelle said, "Well, can't we just give them all name cards?" Like, no. Miss B's like,
no, I have to know. I think it's important to know someone's name. Yeah.
Any other questions? Danielle, I haven't heard from you, or Tiana. Any other questions, anyone? Not often do we get, history makers on our Zooms to live through history.
How many siblings do you have, Miss B? Just one, a sister,
well,
or do you have more?
There were 5 of us originally, but there are 3 of us left. I used to be the middle child. Now I'm the oldest. I have 2 sisters who, one is 3 years younger than I am, and one is 5 years younger. And they all 3, well, the one just moved back to Pittsburgh 3 years ago. She had been in California for 49 years.
Wow.
And moved back to Pittsburgh, but she's here, and she's fantastic. Yeah. And the other one is still here, but right now she's in the state of Washington with her new grandchild. So she's happy. So she'll be back maybe in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. But the 3 of us are here in Pittsburgh together, and I am now the oldest. I used to be the middle child. So I had one older sister who died and one older brother. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there one thing that sticks out to you as the biggest change, either in the city or in schooling or education in general? Is there one thing that sticks out to you as, I can't believe it that they changed this, or I can't believe it took them so long to change this? Like anything like that really sticks out to you?
I was always fascinated with the young people. I love teenagers. I think they're just fantastic. I could start to see a change in how they were responding to things. For example, one day I had a study hall. This is at Alder Days. And I usually had magazines around. If they had finished their work, they could look at some magazines. So I had an Ebony magazine. And one of the white girls, she said, "Mrs. Charles." I said, "What?" She said, "There are no white people in this magazine."
It's kind of the idea.
I said, "Yes." But anyway, that's how other people feel when they look and say, "There are no Black people here," But I remember her being so surprised that there were no Black people no white people in a magazine, Ebony magazine. But I see how the young people are responding to each other, and just to see how they're listening to each other, and it makes me feel so excited about what's coming in the future. So I think there's hope, and I have begun to see that in the last maybe 5 or 10 years. And this summer was fantastic. I loved it. Yeah. So. Does that answer your question, Jeremy?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But if we start to treat each other with respect, treat everybody the same, it sounds so simple, but it is that simple, Like my neighbors who are they still on there?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes, and Catherine's still here.
Okay. They brought me some great soup not too long ago, and I really appreciated that. That was really delicious.
So you like that soup?
I loved it. Yes, it was. I love soups anyway, so it was really good. And thank you so much again. So I'm letting the whole world know what you did.
More, yeah. You'll get another. If we make some more, you'll get another one.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Yep. I saw somebody taking the snow off your sidewalk the other morning. I was going to come over, but I saw somebody already did it.
You know what? There's Lisa who lives up the street, usually does it, but there must have been someone else, because when Lisa came, she said half of your snow is gone. So I don't know who it was.
It was some gentleman, I think, that was going through the neighborhood, a snow angel or something.
Oh, okay.
I saw him. I was doing I was doing mine and he walked by my house and went to yours and did yours. So
Oh, I
that's
didn't know
very-
who did it.
that's
I didn't know,
another
but thank you
something.
very much. Yeah, I didn't know who had done it. Yeah.
I think
But
OPDC
Lisa, who lives up the street, usually does it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
OPDC
thank
has
you. I
a
appreciate
team.
it.
Yeah, OPDC dispatched a team of snow angels in the Oakland community. So it was probably someone, you know, from Andrea's group that there's a lot of Pitt students that
It
volunteered.
was nice.
Yeah, so you'll see them. Well, it's supposed to snow again next week, so you'll see them again.
Oh,
And if you want a snow angel, just, you know, give us a call and we'll arrange one for you.
I would like to have had a chance to thank them, but I had no idea that they had been out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, hence the angel part. They just show up.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ms. B, it has been wonderful talking to you and hearing your stories. And, you know, I talk to Ms. B every day, so this is not new, but I just wanted you to have a part of her that I usually, you know, it's just reserved for me because I'm a superstar. But, you know, I've heard these stories over the years and it is just incredible that, I mean, like you, I mean, I keep going back to Michael's statement where it's like, you know, what motivated you to move on? And it's just like, you would never know she's, you know, lived that type of lifestyle where all those things happen because she is the most incredible person. Like, you know, she's the most incredible person you'll meet. So
Thank you, Carla.
you're welcome. But it like you said, you don't realize that you're part of history. And I think that our students are going through history now and they, you know, could be having some challenges with with COVID and the pandemic and isolation, but you're going to get to the other side of this. And it's like, okay, that's just what I had to do at that time.
That's what you have to do.
You might be on a Zoom call or some, you know, futuristic platform and sharing your story with, you know, the next generation in 20, 30, 40 years. So
yeah, you're in a hologram talking about the COVID times. And
oh gosh,
back in my day, we didn't all have a satellite implanted in our forehead. Like,
yes, exactly.
But you have to be prepared. That's the main thing. And you have so many opportunities. Now, Tara, you're still going to Europe next year or what?
Oh, that was supposed to be this semester, and no.
Okay. Only because of the COVID?
Yeah. So I'm technically still doing my study abroad. It's just all online.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. Not the best experience. I still have to take an Italian course and I'm not learning Italian. I'll tell you guys that.
But the main thing is take advantage, and the days go by so quickly. My mother always told me, she said, after the age of 21, it goes zoom, and it goes by so. I looked at myself, how did I get this old this fast? You know, it goes by so fast, it's unbelievable. Yeah, but true. You have to take advantage of every day and every opportunity. Don't take anything for granted, and just give your best at all times, and you'll be very successful and be pleased with what you have done. And one more thing. Can you imagine? Carla used to be my student and she became my boss.
All things are possible, right?
That's right.
And she is still teaching me to this day. So it's all good. And Pittsburgh is just that small. So keep that in mind, especially if you plan on being in Pittsburgh for the rest of your life. You will run across your teachers,
they're everywhere.
Meets, things like that. But I never thought that I would, especially she's my 9th grade English teacher. I never would have thought that one day it's like, hey, can you come work for me? So
now, I want you to do it this way.
Exactly. It's like I always said that Miss B interviewed me. I technically worked for her. I technically worked for her, she was my boss, even though she was on the staff at School of Career. But then it, turned about again. Now she's my boss because she's one of my board members, one of OPDC's board members. Yeah. So again, I'm working for her.
So we can't get away from each other.
We can't, and that's a good thing. We really don't, but I do appreciate you guys. Tara, thank you for being here. Yeah, Tara is one of our School of Career graduates. She was one of our speakers just a few months ago, but it's great to see you all the way from Kent State. And we appreciate Jason and Catherine, our OPDC neighbors, to come out as well. and all of our school.
Our pleasure. It was very nice. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
come.
I'm so happy that you were on there. That's so nice.
I
It was
love
a
it.
shock.
Yes.
And the rest of the month as well is a whole bunch of, native Pittsburghers, playmakers and powerhouses. And so it's going to be a really inspiring month.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next week, we have Dr. Pamela Smoot. She went to Fifth Avenue High School and is now an associate professor at Southern Illinois University. And we have Dr. Harry Clark. He is the co-founder of Kappa. So if we have any Kappa students, we want to definitely get them to come out and support him. And we also have Marimba Malayans, whose mother is Malayans High School is named after her. And she is definitely a powerhouse here in the Hill District and the city of Pittsburgh. You may have seen her on some of the election day commercials during the election. So Ms. B was the kickoff for this incredible month of Black History. Like I said, Black History is not just February. Black History is every day, every month is history.
Every day.
Yeah, we shouldn't even have to say Black history anymore. We're hopefully in your lifetime, you'll see that. It's just history, American history. So thank you guys. This has been awesome, awesome, awesome. School to Career, Mr. Jeremy has journals for you all, or will have journals for you all by the end of the day. There are now due dates on those. If they are not turned in, they will disappear. So if you were here for last week, you don't need a journal for that, but you will need one for today. And you'll see that. Please get it turned in on time by the due date. And we'll just see you all next week. Have a fabulous weekend.